This is Rodney from the Masculine Journey podcast, where we explored manhood within Jesus Christ. Your chosen Truth Network podcast is starting in just a few seconds. Sit back, enjoy it, share it, but most of all, thank you for listening and choosing the Truth Podcast Network.
Have you thought about your loved ones and their financial security if the unexpected happens? Plan for the future with prcua Life. Do it for them. Since 1873, prcua has been ensuring that which is most precious, life, as well as protecting its members and their families financially, helping craft robust retirement plans. Join prcua Life today and take advantage of its affordable life insurance plans, competitive annuity rates, and additional member benefits. Did you know that you can lower your income tax bill and boost your retirement income by opening a new prcua Life annuity or transferring your existing account? Earn up to 3.75 APY with 1-year guarantee and $500 minimum deposit. Get to know us better. Visit prcua.org or contact your local PRC representative at 336-776-7456. PRCua Life, protecting life through all its stages. All right, for my YouTube channel, it's If Not For God with Mike Zwick. Just like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be alerted when we have our next video.
Welcome to If Not For God, stories of hopelessness that turn to hope. Here is your host, Mike Zwick.
If Not For God with Mike Zwick, I've got Pastor Dana Coverstone back. Pastor Dana Coverstone's got a new book out, which I'm really excited about. Pastor Dana, I need a copy of that, man.
Text me your address and I'll get one of them mailed to you.
All right, and then we'll do a show, and I'll do a book review. We'll talk about it. So but Genesis chapter 41, we're actually going to be looking at today. I believe this is a very important chapter, and I believe this is for America, and I believe it's something that is coming, and it's coming very soon. Pastor Dana has been warning people about the coming famine. I have had dreams where the cost of everything went up and then you couldn't find it. I had a dream where all of a sudden I couldn't find any clean drinking water. Last time I was on Pastor Dana's show, we talked about it, and he said, I'm going to share a dream about that tomorrow. It's funny you say that. So it's funny, Pastor Dana, when different people across the country, and I talk to all these different people who don't know each other, and they've all seen the same things from the Lord. Yeah. But Pastor Dana, we're glad to have you back on today. Today we are going to be looking at Genesis chapter 41. We're going to be looking at the New American Standard Bible, the NASB. So if you guys want to pull your Bibles out and read with us, starting in verse 1. Now it happened at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream, and behold, he was standing by the Nile. And behold, from the Nile 7 cows came up, fine looking and fat, and they grazed in the marsh grass. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them from the Nile, ugly and thin, and they stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. Then the ugly and the thin cows ate the 7 fine-looking and fat cows. Then Pharaoh awoke, but he fell asleep and dreamed a second time, and behold, 7 ears of grain came up on a single stalk, plump and good. Then behold, 7 ears, thin and scorched by the east wind, sprouted up after them, and the thin ears swallowed the 7 plump and full ears. Then Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. Now in the morning, his spirit was troubled, so he sent messengers and called for all the soothsayer priests of Egypt and all its wise men. And Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them. Then the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I would make mention today of my own offenses. Pharaoh was furious with his servants, and he put me in confinement in the house of the captain of the bodyguard, both me and the chief baker. Then we had a dream one night, he and I, each of us, dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. Now a Hebrew youth was there with us, a servant of the captain of the bodyguard, and we told him the dreams, and he interpreted our dreams for us. For each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And just as he had interpreted for us, so it happened. Pharaoh restored me in office, but he hanged the chief baker. And then Joseph actually interprets the dream for Pharaoh. Is that right, Pastor Dana?
That's right. Joseph interprets that dream and explains to Pharaoh that, Pharaoh, you've had a dream and God's warning you. He's letting you know there's going to be 7 great years of produce. grain's going to grow better than it's ever grown before in the history of this country. But you better store up, you better stock up, because at the end of that 7 years, there's going to be 7 years of famine. And during that 7 years of famine, what you've collected during that 7 years of feast, so to speak, is going to take care of you. There's a couple of main things to think about with this. When Joseph had dreams that got his brothers all upset, you may remember he said, I saw these sheaves, my sheep stood up and yours bowed down to me, between his brothers, and they took offense at that. He also had a dream about sun, moon, and stars. So he was seeing agricultural things. And here he interprets an agricultural dream, basically say to Pharaoh, look, if you don't do something, your nation's going to die. Your people are going to die. You'll go down in history as the Pharaoh who missed it. And so Pharaoh immediately recognizes that what he's heard from Joseph definitely speaks to his heart. Whether he knew who God was or not, God used Pharaoh to give this warning dream to. And now Pharaoh says, okay, Joseph, you're in charge. And so for the next 7 years, everybody had to bring 1/5 of all their grain in, store it. And I'm sure those people were thinking, this is crazy, this is extra tax, whatever. But at the end of that 7 years, the famine started, and people started starving. And basically because they had put all this food back, and think about this, he would have had to build buildings all over the country. They would have had to have security. I mean, this was probably like the inflationary bill that just got passed, that Manchin finally signed on to. They had to build structure. They had to have stores. They had to have security. Somebody had to guard all this wheat, all this grain. Somebody had to take care of all the logistics of getting it transported, put in, checked out. But if they hadn't done that, they would have found themselves in some pretty serious trouble. And so God gave a heathen Pharaoh, a heathen king, so to speak, a dream warning him that if he didn't do something, didn't prepare, that the nation would pay a great price. And I believe that God's been speaking to people, not just me, but many, many people, been speaking to people through dreams, through visions, and through the word itself. Paul said in the last days, perilous times will come. And that's in the context of the church. But it's not just in the context of the church, context of the nation. The first dream I had, I shared that I encourage people to put back storable food. I encourage people to stock up on guns and ammo. I encourage people to put money, take money, not necessarily empty their bank account, but to put their money in something like gold and silver, something that would hold its value. We're already seeing hyperinflation. Most everybody listening has probably seen everything they buy go up. And what's amazing to me is that the inflation rate is not impacted by the cost of groceries or gas, which makes no sense. But Joseph spoke to Pharaoh and said, look, if you don't do something, there's going to be starvation. And so he put Joseph to work. Joseph got busy and took care of things. And even during the time of great blessing, it's amazing to me that Joseph had 2 children. He had Ephraim and Manasseh. And one of those names basically meant, God's he's helped me to get through what my family's done, and also he's brought me favor in this land. So God brought him there for such a time as this moment, and he saved all these people. And the preparation that I think we need to be watching for here in America is this. You're hearing it from, you talked about in the last show, insurance agencies are telling you that they're seeing more and more people dying. Obviously, gas has gone up. It's down a little bit more, a whole lot from what it was. But we see inflation in everything, from the grocery store to the gas station to, everything is getting higher. I saw an article yesterday about the drought in the West, what it's doing to cows and how many cows have been slaughtered, and yet the cost of beef at the grocery store continues to go up. Everything you buy is going up. I shop every week. I'm the one that does most of the shopping because my wife works at the school. And so on my day off, I'll go and I'll shop, and I have noticed literally at least a 12 to 18% increase in every single thing that I buy. Whether it's a pack of bottled water, just basic necessities, flour, stuff like that has gone through the roof. And so people need to prepare. And here's what I'm telling people. My wife and I live in our house now by ourselves. My son and my daughter-in-law live in the community. So when I prepare, I say, okay, God, what do I need? What do I need to prepare? And I listen to him. I don't, however, what you're doing doesn't mean anything to me. I got to know, what does God want me to do? I need you to hear for you and your family. What do you need to have? What do you need to stock up on? What do you need to have, for your family? But people need to really pray. And I've been watching the cost of storable food from different companies like My Patriot Supply and 4 Patriots and stuff like that. And anybody who's been watching that knows that stuff has gone through the roof as well. And there's been shortages in some of it. You can't get it sometimes. Through the Health Ranger store, Mike Adams, there's products he's been sold out of for 6 months, 8 months. They're putting orders in to get, 1,000 pounds of something, and they might get shipped 250 pounds. Anybody who doesn't believe or see that there's a supply chain shortage happening and going around, even in the West Coast for a while, they were putting cardboard boxes up that looked like produce or tomato cans or whatever. And just this week, I saw where tomato prices are going to be going up because of the water shortage in the West. And so that the headline basically says, so people who are, who like to eat a lot of pasta and stuff like that with tomato sauce, your tomato sauce is going to go through the roof. We priced olive oil and cooking oil just the other day. And my wife was like, what in the world happened because of the price thing? And as the price goes up, we're also seeing the box size or the product size get smaller. Things are shifting. We've got countries around the world like Sri Lanka, which seem to be on the brink of falling apart, nations that are shifting and switching, and also some of the newer leaders that are coming in are some of the younger members of the World Economic Forum, the Young Leaders Group like Trudeau. Things are happening. We see changes in transition leadership in Croatia, Estonia, England. All sorts of other nations are just trying to figure things out. The younger crowds coming in, and those younger crowds always bring in the values of their time and their day with it. So people aren't as prepared. I'm going to say this, and I know what I'm saying, but I believe the church is in denial. There's a part of us, part of the church is, persecution is never going to come to America. Well, Peter said, judgment will begin in the house of God. And there's a lot of believers out there that need to be taken care of. I've stocked up on some things. And I've also I've got some senior adult ladies that are single in my church. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I have told them, if things get really, really bad, you've got a place to stay with me and my wife. Mm-hmm. So we're realizing that we're not just stocking up or getting things prepared just for us. Mm-hmm. It can't be the us four and no more. But even that dream that God gave to Pharaoh, that dream was given to Pharaoh so Joseph could interpret it, and the people of Egypt could be spared, and also the nations around them. And those nations that would come in were thankful to Egypt. Why? Because they listened to the warning that God had given them. And my fear in the American church right now is that we want prosperity, and that prosperity gospel, the health and wealth. It's a different gospel. It doesn't line up with the Word of God at all. And if you read Hebrews chapter 11, you find out all the good stuff in the very end that talks about people who the world was not worthy of, people who lived in holes in the ground. So we're not going to be spared. We're not going to be spared. We're not going to be exempt from persecution or opposition or challenge or difficulty just because we have built a lot of hospitals around the world, or built oil, or dug water wells in Africa, or because we've spent money on missions and we've built hospitals in the Amazon and stuff like that. God doesn't look at what you've done; He looks at your heart. And so, my hope and my prayer right now for the church world is that they're listening, and they're watching, and they're hearing God's voice. And I've got a lot of folks, they'll email or call, and they'll say, Pastor Dan, what should I do? And I say, I can't answer for you, but if you will pray, if you will seek God's face, He'll show you what you need to stock up on. He'll tell you what you need to have. I can't tell how many times I've been in a store and there's been a special, an out of this world special, and something that my family enjoys eating or likes to eat or stock up on. And I'm able to buy 10 or 12 cans of something that would have cost me, $20, and it's on sale for $5. God can provide. I'm going to tell you another story. There was a lady in a housing authority in Illinois, and she actually called the church one day, and she said, Pastor Dana, I know I'm supposed to stock up on some food and things. She said, but I'm on limited income, and I might have $10 a month that I can spare. And I said, well, is there anybody else in your housing authority that you could work with to maybe stock up on some things? She said, there's a couple other ladies. Let me talk with them. And so we arranged a group call, and they were all at her house. She put them on speakerphone, and there's 4 ladies in this house, in this housing authority. And they said, Pastor, what can we do together? And I said, well, if each of you can put $10 together, and this goes back to right after I had the dream. I said, if 4 of you put $10 together, that's $4 a month. You could get some bottled water one month. The next month you could get cans of tuna, and the next month you could buy, you could buy some hamburger, what you can, put it in the freezer. I didn't think anything of it. Well, about 6 months ago, I get a call back, and the secretary, Linda, she says, Pastor Dana, there's a lady on the phone. She's real excited, wants to talk to you. So I talked with her, and she said, Pastor Dana, this is so-and-so. Remember me from the house? Yeah, I remember you. She said, you won't believe what God's done. She said, 4 of us turned into 6 of us. And we actually had to rent a storage unit to put all the stuff that we've got in it. And she said, here's the neat thing. One of the people who works in maintenance at this housing authority kind of said, hey, you folks are starting to get some stuff. Do you need some help storing it? And they said, here's our thing. We're trying to store up. We don't know what's coming. And this guy said, look, I'm a believer too, and I believe something's coming. He said, I own a storage business on the side. He said, I will just give you a storage unit. So these 4 to 6 ladies now have been stocking up on $10 a month. They've gone together, and now they've got an entire like 10 by 20 storage unit that they've got, and I'm thinking, well, I didn't tell you have to do that, but that's what the Lord told them to do. And so even the people that say, well, I'm on limited income, I can't do this, I can't do that. If those folks will simply pray, God will show them how he can work in their lives and their situation. So I'm hoping that people are preparing, and not just with food, but they're looking at their finances, and they're realizing that the money that this country prints on a daily basis, how in the world and how much longer can we last with those things? And there's a reason inflation, part of the reason we have real inflation today, and nobody in government wants to admit this, is because of all that was done during the pandemic. You had people told to stay home, they got paid, they got this, they got that, and now when they talk about, well, there's all these jobs in July, well, then you find out most of them were part-time jobs. And our president said in July there was no inflation. Well, every American that lives in the real world knows better. So those things are coming. And just as Joseph was able to warn Pharaoh by interpreting that dream, I believe God is speaking through his word, through the prophets, through dreamers, through visions, through what he wants, through the Spirit of God. He's trying to tell people, hey, you got to get ready for these things that are happening. And it can't just be, well, God will take care of me. God has warned us. And when God gives you a warning, Pharaoh could have said, "Oh, that's good. Okay, well, I'll just tell the people, and they can just stock up on their own." No, he, as Pharaoh, realized I got to take care of my nation. And so my hope is that people in the church will listen. And in some ways, it's almost too late to start in some areas. There was a person who had started stocking up for 6 months after the first dream, and then decided, you know what, Dana Coverstone's crazy. This stuff ain't going to happen. And so they kind of gave all their stuff away. And then about 3 months ago, this gentleman calls me and says, "Hey, I need to apologize to you," but he said, I made a huge mistake. I listened to you, and I thought, okay, for 6 months we'll do it, and I didn't see anything happen real quick. He said, so I kind of gave that stuff I stored up away, and I told people not to do it. And now I'm seeing the things that you were saying. They're happening. They're going on. And so I started to stock up again, and I can't believe how much the prices have gone up.
That's right.
And I can't even said what I had in 6 months' time is now going to take me a year to get to because of pay. What I'm going to have to pay for it. I didn't share that dream or try to make people scared. I just try to say, here's what I believe God's trying to say to the nation. And people can take warnings as they want. It's kind of like when you come into a town and there's a sign that says, speed enforced ahead, and you just fly right on through, and that cop pulls you over. Well, the sign was there as a warning to say, hey, we will pull you over. We will fine you for speeding, but here's the chance to not speed. Just listen to the sign. And so I believe a whole lot of people, both in the church world and the nation, are still hoping that things are just going to get back to normal. And normal doesn't exist anymore. Things are changing. Things are shifting. And that's why we got to put our faith and our trust in the Lord. And so this is important stuff to talk about with the body of Christ for sure.
Like you said before, there was a guy you had told people about this 2 years ago, and he didn't see it happen right away. So he just said, Pastor Dan is crazy. And so I talked to a friend of mine about this, and he's seen a lot of stuff happen. He's seen a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the future. I know I have, and you have as well. But I was talking to him, and we said, well, why are people not waking up as much as much as they should? And I said, if you think about it, if you take a frog and you put the frog in boiling water, the frog will jump right out. I said, but if you take that same frog and you put it in lukewarm water and you slowly bring it to a boil, then the frog will die. And so I think what happens is we see what's going on in the world right now. Yeah, I mean the shelves are slowly going down. You're not seeing as much food. But if you're not looking to the future to see what could happen in the future, then you're going to miss it because it's kind of happened slowly. But I think by the time where you're talking about when there is no food or when there is no water, at that point it's too late. But it's not too late now to at least get started, right?
It is, and there are, you've still got the cheaper stores. There was an article a couple of days ago in the news that more Americans are now shopping at general dollar stores and Dollar Trees rather than the Walmart. And the reason for that is because inflation, cost. The dollar store used to be everything was $1. Well, now it's $1.25. So inflation's even hit those stores, and they're coming here now to shop for their basic needs and their food. So even the news is telling us that those stores are there, and people should just do what they can. And once again, if you don't have a lot of money, talk with family, talk with friends, group together, like those 4 or 6 ladies did in a housing authority in Illinois. Ask the Lord to give you specific wisdom and direction in what you buy and what you purchase. And I'm hearing from people also who said, God, I need to prepare, I don't know how. And God would provide, a bigger tax relief than they thought, or a bigger tax refund than they thought. Or they'd get a check in the mail and, hey, you overpaid on this, and here's this. And those folks were using that to kind of stock up. It's not that you have to have an underground bunker and 5 years of food and 10 years of water and, emergency, your own surgical ward and your bunker. That's not what this is about. Saying, okay, God, what do I need to do? Because God knows specifically what you or your family need. And if you're single, He knows what you're going to need. If you got a baby on the way or you've got a couple kids, He knows exactly what you're going to need. And so listen. I can tell you about a lady who prayed that there's been a shortage of baby formula. And there was a lady who called and she said, Pastor Dan, I live in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And I'd gone to the Walmart and they were out. I'd gone to another store in town. They were out. And she said, I got out in my car and I started crying because I was desperate. And she said, I just started praying. And she said, I said, Lord, I need to know where I need to go. And God just kind of spoke to her of a store in a town about an hour away. And she said, Lord, I'm going to be driving by all these other stores and this and that. Maybe I can stop. He said, no, I want you to drive there. So she drives to the store about an hour away. She goes in. She's got one thing in mind. She's wanting to buy baby formula. And she walks in. She goes back in that section, and she realizes that the shelves are empty. And she's like, oh, my goodness, I didn't hear from God. That wasn't you. And so she's standing there. She's upset. And one of the employees in that store walks in and says, ma'am, are you okay? And she's like, oh, yeah. She's crying. She wiped her tears, and she said, I'm out of baby food. I'm almost out of baby food from a baby, and I got to have some. And my baby's got special, has a special diet. Got to have this certain type of Similac, whatever it is. And she said, I drove here for an hour, and I'm just frustrated. There's nothing here. And she said, oh, ma'am, no. The truck just got here. And if you can wait about 10 minutes, well, I'll go out and get something to bring it in. And so now this lady's like, oh, wow, the truck just got here. The truck got there. She waits about 5 more minutes. The lady comes back in and she says, hey, listen, you said you needed this. Here's a whole, not crate, but like a whole carton of it. It had like 6 or 12 in it. And the lady said, well, how many of these can I buy? And she says, not a whole lot of people have been here looking for this. So you can take as many as you want.
Oh, my gosh.
There's no limit. And so she walked out of there with like 36 cans of this stuff.
Wow.
And she's in line. She's in line in the store. She got all these cans of Similac in her grocery buggy. And there's a lady behind her, and she's up there and she's scanning all this through, and she realizes it's gonna be a lot of money. And the lady behind her says, I take it they don't have the baby formula where you're at. She said, oh no, ma'am. She said, I thought God told me to come here this morning because we've been out. And she said, go get another buggy, and I'll pay for it.
Oh, my goodness.
I'll pay for having your buggy and get another buggy. So she goes back and she loads up. She leaves with like 100 cans of this stuff, and the lady paid for it, Because when she got back to where she was, she had friends who also had babies who used that formula. Yeah. So, I mean, God is able to provide. If He can make an axe head float, if He can heal, if He can raise the dead and heal the sick, He can take care of what you need. So people don't need to be so scared. They just need to say, okay, God, show me what to do. And that may mean, okay, drive for an hour and trust me. And that lady that, and when she called to tell me that, she said, I just cannot tell you how exciting it was to know that God cares that much about me, that even though I drove an hour thinking about how in the world am I going to get this to pay for it, and the lady buys 2 buggies full so she can help her friends too. So
that is absolutely amazing. And that was the thing. We have our friend Pastor Ron Harris who said this. He said, Mike, you need to plan, you need to prepare, you need to do everything that the Lord has told you to do as far as getting food, whether he had mentioned saving gas. Pastor Ron actually had a dream where he had a big container of salt and he had a big container of sugar. And he woke up and he asked the Lord for the interpretation of the dream. He says, you're going to need this to barter. So where we may be going, it may be tough times, but it is going to be absolutely amazing how I believe that the Lord is going to show up. We had our friend Pastor Marty Feltz from First Christian Church of Boone up here, and he told me his granddaughter is actually living with him. And they went to the hospital and they were completely out of baby formula. And they had nothing, because they were at the hospital, they weren't at home, they had someone home. He said, but all of a sudden they were looking everywhere. And he said the doctor went back to her desk. And when the doctor went back to her desk, there were 2 bottles of baby formula on the doctor's desk. And the doctor said, who put this here? Everybody was asking around, who put this baby formula here? Everybody said, no, nobody. It wasn't me. And Pastor Marty said that wasn't anybody else. He said that was God, and that was a miracle. So yes, God is absolutely going to work supernaturally for us in these last days, which I believe that we're in. But what I also want you to hear as well is it's very important that we plan and we prepare, because there is going to come a time where it is too late. And I like what you said, Pastor Dana. You don't have to listen to what I say. You don't have to listen to what you say. Ask the Lord about what you should do to prepare and to plan. And the biggest thing of all is when you're doing all this stuff, take the action, just like Pharaoh did. He told the people, he prepared for his country. But at the same time, we're not to live in fear, and we're not to live in worry, okay? Because Jesus said, he says, do not worry. He says, do not worry. We're not supposed to fear, but at the same time, that doesn't mean we don't prepare and we don't plan, or else Pharaoh would have said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just trust in God." So there is a fine line, but I do believe that you do need to prepare. And Pastor Dana, I thank you for what you're doing every day. I thank you for what you're doing in your church, getting people prepared, getting people to plan for what's coming ahead. And I believe what we talked about in the last episode with 2 Timothy 4, to be prepared even to lose our lives for the sake of Christ. So Pastor Dana, you can check him out. He does a show every day, and it's on your Facebook and your YouTube channel. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And your new book.
The book is called Simple Accountability, and it's simply a method of accountability that I've used with several men over 30 years. It's my way each week. I tell some guys what I've dealt with, what my temptations were, my struggles, my frustrations, my victories, the good and the bad, the ugly, and they're just able to pray for me better based on what I'm telling them I'm facing and going through. It's just basically a compendium of my week. Here's what happened, here's what I thought, here's what I said, here's what I did, here's where I need help. And it's kept me transparent for 30 years with people and helped me be accountable, and hope it'll help a lot of people. And they can get it on Amazon, or they can contact me at realdanacoverstone@gmail.com, and I can get them a better price even with the shipping. And not trying to make money on buying it, we're trying to get it out there so it helps people stay accountable, which is one of the missing elements of discipleship, I believe.
Amen, brother. And I'll say one last thing to the audience. Don't take this interview lightly. The stuff that Pastor Dana has been talking about over the last couple of years has come true. And so there is still time, but there's not a lot of time. Pastor Dana, I thank you for coming on, if not for God. All right, for my YouTube channel, it's If Not For God with Mike Zwick. Just like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be alerted when we have our next video.
Consider joining the Polish Roman Catholic Union of America, also known as PRCUA Life. PRCUA Life is a fraternal benefit society that offers a variety of different life insurance portfolios for all stages of life. PRCUA Life also offers fixed indexed annuity plans with the yield up to 3.75% APY. As a fraternal organization, the PRCUA provides member benefits such as education scholarships, sports tournaments, numerous Polish-American cultural programs, and much more. To become a member and for more details, visit prcua.org or contact local PRCUA representatives at 336-776-7456. Consider joining the PRCUA Life this week.